Okay, hi, and welcome to the School of Data 2015 Fellowships Ask Us Anything. I'm Zara. I'll be leading work on the Fellowships program this year. I have with me Milena, who is the School of Data program director, and Olu, last year's School of Data fellow from Nigeria, and Nisha, last year's School of Data fellow from India. The waving and the little things. I don't know if you can see. So we thought we'd start this. So if you have any questions for us, either put them in the page where I assume you can be watching, or tweet us using hashtag Fellows Hangout or at School of Data, whichever is easiest for you. Um, cool. So I thought we might start by having a brief overview of what's coming up this year, and then we'll talk to Nisha and Olu and whoever else drops in about their experiences last year. So this year, we'll be running the fellowship program from April until December, and it will be a 9 month program instead of 6 months like last year. Um, and yeah, we're looking for a commitment of about 10 days a month from the fellows, and it will be a paid position. And we're looking for people who can kind of grow the community of data literate people among their areas. So yeah, maybe we can start by asking Nisha and Olu what they got up to last year. Nisha, what was your highlight from your fellowship last year? Nisha, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. Um, I think one of the highlights was meeting everyone in the fellowship. Everyone was just so smart and talented and committed that it was really inspirational to kind of start off the fellowship that way and also have this continued community available whenever we had events or challenges or just there to kind of run ideas off of or to talk to. I think part of one of the things we did a data journalism workshop in October, and it was we did with really for people who are not very technologically savvy, and we had to do a lot of basics, and it was really rewarding because I think after a while you start working with a lot of people who want to know more advanced stuff that you forget that there's still this whole group of people that really need to like learn the basics of just like how to work spreadsheets and how to get access to data, and you really kind of open a whole new world to them, and that was really rewarding. And doing that kind of workshop was something that I would like to definitely keep doing.
Cool. Maybe you could explain a little bit. I should have done this at the start, but could you introduce maybe your background and how you came to be working with as a School of Data Fellow?
Yes. So I'm in Bangalore, India, and I work with an organization called Data Meet, and we are primarily an online Google group of people who meet and talk about and share data and do open data camps and workshops. And I came across the fellowship. I think I had met a few years ago, and got an email that was like, "Oh hey, this was something that you guys might be interested in," and applied, and that's how I came across the fellowship. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Nisha. Olu, can you hear us? Can you speak okay now?
Yeah, perfectly. I can hear you.
Great. We can hear you too. Can you maybe give us a brief introduction to how you came to be a School of Data Fellow, your background, and maybe a couple of highlights from your fellowship last year? Olu, I think you're on mute. Okay, we seem to have lost Olu, unfortunately. Oh no, I think he's back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, okay. So I work with an organization called Connected Development that does trainings on open data, and which was one of our trainings, and that was how I got to know about the school. That was like 2 years ago when it started. And when the fellowship came up, I felt this is a great opportunity uh, to get to meet like minds and a lot about data and NGOs especially and journalists on how to use data for their various works. So that was it.
Cool. And what were kind of any highlights that you can think of from your fellowship last year? What was your favorite part?
Well, the fellowship has been great, and I think I'm still living in it right now. I think the biggest one was Open Data Party in Abuja, which had about 102 participants, and it was so wow that we had a whole lot of supporters coming in and saying, "Oh, we need to support this cause since it's basically for training," and we had participants from all parts of Nigeria. That made it so fantastic. So we had different cultures, bringing them in 2 days on one roof. Training how to use data was quite amazing for me. And yeah, going forward, it's what we're still living in right now. A whole lot of them are now saying, can we do this again? Can we still do this? And they're looking forward to the Open Data Day already because another one is coming up during the Open Data Day.
Awesome. So what kinds of participants and organizations did you work with, Olu, at that, for example, at the Open Data Party in Abuja? I really like the name, by the way. Yeah, what kinds of, you said they came from all around Nigeria, but what kinds of backgrounds did they have? Olu, your connection seems to be a bit dodgy. Maybe I'll, oh, okay, can you speak now?
Okay, so we had participants from local NGOs. They formed about 60% of our participants, and we had news, but media from the radio and the prints were much of our participants as journalists. And also we had students as well, and academics. Academics brought their students to our events.
Wow, that's quite a range of backgrounds there.
We had. Yeah, it's. I think having diverse backgrounds gives you. It gives your training so much insight. So it's not as if all of them are coming like they just want to come and learn. Some of them also want to teach as well. Some of them
Ollie, your connection seems, you sound a bit underwater to me. Yeah, it is breaking up quite a lot. Maybe we'll go to Nisha for a little while. Nisha, what kinds of organizations did you work with as part of your fellowship then?
Yeah, hi. We worked with a lot of local journalists, people who do city journalism, mostly because they have the biggest trouble getting access or understanding how to use the data that they can find. So we did 2 workshops with them, and did a data expedition along with a organization that's working in the urban space in Hyderabad in December with Milena, and with data that so they're trying to improve kind of planning and do it through data collection, kind of looking at ways to advocate for better planning. It's called Hyderabad Urban Labs, and they do this event called Those Just 2 Days in Hindi. That's supposed to be 2 days of like learning and celebrating and getting people to participate in planning the city. So they had a bunch of data that they wanted to kind of explore and help different kinds of people get exposure to. So we did a data expedition with them. So we had very different groups of people. We had students there. We had organizations that were working with migrant labor. We had people who just work with data for a living. We had designers. We had people who worked with maps. So it was quite a nice collection of different people.
That sounds good. So what did you end up doing with the data that you during the data expedition that Milena attended?
So we actually were able to, a couple of groups were mapping data on around slums, and we actually used CartoDB to put some of that data on a map. Also, we had we had data around lakes and water bodies in the area, and people used CartoDB to kind of look at that as well. And then we were looking at complaints of pollution, lake bodies. People were able to do kind of basic analysis on where kind of complaints were happening. So that was a pretty interesting output that we were able to kind of get to. And then some basic visualization with um, Excel on some bus routes and bus stop data that we had access to. It was quite varied, but in the end, everyone had done something with the data, either basic analysis or had used a new tool, and came out with like a interesting insight.
Cool, that sounds really great. So just for people who might be watching, as part of the fellowship, one thing that we did in last year's round was that every fellow ran an event together with a member of the School of Data Central team. So that meant we got the opportunity to go and see how the fellows are running events event formats that we've been working with for a while, and seeing how they've adapted it to their local context. And then we got to bring that back and help share it among the rest of the network. So I guess, one question that we got a lot yesterday was about the kinds of skills that one needs to be a fellow. So last year it was quite interesting because we were very lucky to get quite a big lot of applicants, and they came from very diverse backgrounds. So we made an effort to try and pick people from very different backgrounds. So we had people with different specialities throughout the fellowship. And this year, we have fewer places, sadly, this year than last year. We have only seven places, unless any funders want to sponsor a fellow in a new place. And we're looking for people who might, for example, have technical skills in using data, but not be so strong in communicating those skills to non-technical people, or people who are really specialized in one specific thing. So yesterday we had Kodrina, who's a mapping person, and she was able to share those skills a bit more widely. And we have people with basically different specialities to kind of bring to the team and make this higgledy-piggledy family or class of fellows. Olu, if your connection's better, could you maybe talk a little bit about the skills that you thought that you brought to the fellowship and what you think you learned during the fellowship? I don't know if Olu's connection is working. In the meantime, Nisha, the same question to you.
Can you hear me now?
It sounds very underwatery.
Hello?
No, I can't properly hear you. So I'll ask the same question to Nisha in the meantime. Nisha, what do you think?
Hear me? Is it perfect now?
Ollie, yeah, it's a little bit better. Can you try telling us about the skills that you brought to the fellowship and what you think you learned from the fellowship? Okay, Ollie, it doesn't seem to be working, so I'll go to Nisha. Nisha, same question, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah. So I am not very talented technically, so I don't have a lot of technical skills with data. And part of the fellowship was that I kind of get over that fear and sort of start doing a few more technical things instead of relying on kind of my network and colleagues to do that. So I did actually learn how to do basic scraping, which was pretty exciting. Probably one of the most technical things I've ever done. And I'm mostly very good at kind of facilitating and bringing people together and doing evangelizing open data and sharing data and talking to people and bringing out what they want to do. So in terms of that, that was a pretty good skill, and I could bring different kinds of different skills together. Um, but I think what the fellowship really did was kind of push me to also, be more technical and like learn the skill for myself, which was actually quite nice. So yeah, I think one of the strong points is that you actually have time to work on the things you're good at, but also a good network and motivation to try new things, which was quite nice.
That's good. So when you said that you weren't very technically talented, Milena wrote in the chat, that is not true. And that's something that I think I come across a lot. People say, oh, I have no technical skills. I'm not a technical person, as though there's kind of technical and non-technical and there's no mix between. And that's something that we found, I think, quite a lot with the fellows. Some of them assume that they have few technical skills because they're not technically a developer. But that they can actually do a lot, and that's one of the things that we try and encourage as much as possible with School of Data, to just kind of get hands-on and learn by doing, and try, for example, to answer with data expeditions. That's a format for people who might not have come across it. It's a format where like a topical issue that you're actually really interested in. For example, I've done them on the garment industry in Bangladesh, or on the cost of vaccinations in developing countries. And then you get together people from a different range of backgrounds. So you might have, I think, as Ollie was describing, people from different backgrounds all working together in a certain team to try and tell a story and find the story in data. And this is where we use what we call the data pipeline. So you start with asking a question, and then you go along various steps until you maybe don't answer the question as you thought you would, but that in itself is a discovery. But you almost always learn something along the way. Okay, so Nisha's connection sadly isn't good enough to use video. Milena, do you have any points to add about what you learned from the fellows yourself last year, because you were directing the program last year?
Yeah, I'll try to. I have some builders unpacking the scaffolding just in front of me right now, so apologize for the noises at the moment. Yeah, I learned a lot from the fellows last year. I learned that they are amazing people, and with very little resources that we gave them, they've done such amazing things. So it proved a bit the concept that if you get talented people that are, have some skills, but are also very, very eager to learn additional skills and learn from a community of peers, and give them a bit of push. Like really, we can't offer that much. Like we offer a little bit of financial resources and basically a network of peers that people can learn from. But with this, they've done amazing work, and especially Nisha and Olu in this hangout. Olu has gathered hundreds of people for the data part, open data parties, and has done amazing work. And Nisha the same, just did additional work from what she was already doing with DataMeet, but had this small resource to give it a boost. So yeah, it just proved that the fellowship program works, or the philosophy of the fellowship program works, and that's why we renewed it. I think that we learned a lot about what to do or not to do. We learned a lot about how to communicate, how to work with the fellows better. We learned that we would like to get them to work more together, so maybe pair them and have more opportunities for them to share skills with each other and teach each other what they know. Because, as you said, we have very, very diverse people in the group. We learned that we need more time, so we extended the program to 9 months. We learned loads, I think, and we should definitely write a bit more about what we learned and how we plan to do things differently.
Yeah, there are a few things that you mentioned that I think we are going to try. Like as you said, kind of peer mentoring is something that a lot of fellows gave in feedback that as they all had such a diverse set of skills, it might have been good to pair them individually. So we had, as part of the fellowship, you have to we ask you to attend and actually carry out some online skill shares. So you pick an area of your expertise and you do something like this, Google Hangout, where you share that through an hour session, maybe with slides or a live demonstration. And that was really great for us to learn a range of different things. Like I remember I attended one about gamification, another mapping Skillshare. We had them in different languages. Ruben just did one on scraping in Spanish. And that was really great. But I think this year we'll make more of an effort following the feedback to try and pair people up specifically with when they say, oh, I'm joining as a fellow, but I'm really missing this specific skill. If someone else is within our network, or for example, a 2014 fellow who has that skill, we'd like to really kind of pair them up so that they can work on that, building that specific thing over the time. Because as Milena said, we don't offer huge amounts of financial resources, but it is definitely more the access to that peer network and trying to build up both your own skills and teaching you or showing you different ways in which you can try and communicate that to your community. So really building up that network around you. Nisha, how did this is another question that was asked yesterday. What was a typical day for you as when you were doing as a School of Data Fellow, if you had a typical day?
Yeah. So basically, I tried to do 2 weekly week plans that were 2 weeks ahead. So I kind of look at the schedule. This didn't always work out, unfortunately, and see, okay, can I event this month? How much time would it take? Who's a good partner? We don't really do events on our own. We always like to have a good partner to help us. So that was always trial and error, kind of reaching out to people. And then the fellowship also, there was weekly check-ins. There was always also hangouts for skill shares and also other kinds of check-ins. So that was also good to have on a schedule for the month because you don't want to, they're pretty good. And then we would try to kind of stick with as much of the planning as we could, but again, it doesn't always work out the way we would like. But we did manage to get 3 events and then smaller events that were just like meetups that were happening every month. So that was quite nice. But yeah, in terms of daily work, it was mostly logistics, a lot of outreach, keeping in touch with people who came to a training, the feedback forums, and outreach to people who you don't normally do outreach to so that they can come to the training. So it was a lot of kind of herding cats in a lot of ways, just so that you can get a good group to the training and then herd them afterward to get their feedback and then improve the training the next time. So that was kind of how each month through the fellowship. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Nisha. And I think that's something that the community outreach, as you said, is something that we learned a lot from you on. I remember I was looking for things about how to map stakeholders and kind of understand the landscape of where you're working. And Nisha's excellent at this. They sent me some really great resources of how you can, different templates for how you can understand who's working there in your space and how to get in contact with them and how to understand what's the best way to grow your community. So yeah, that was something that Nisha was especially good and brought to the fellowship. Ollie, I'm going to try you one more time. How's your connection going? I don't know if there's a really big delay or if you just can't hear us. But in the meantime, maybe so Nisha, you've described what you did as part of your fellowship. What were you expecting, and how did it fit with your expectations of the fellowship program from before you started and as you were going through?
I think it met my expectations. I actually wasn't to expect. I wasn't really sure how many things we would have to do or events we would have to participate in, but it was really self-driven, which was quite nice, and I kind of was allowed to, set my own expectations and then be required to meet them, which was quite a good challenge for me and the schedule that I'm creating for myself. Um, so I think what we were able to do was, one, I took that, I started to do more technical things, which was personal achievement, and then we also started to really strive for new audiences and new partnerships, which we wouldn't have done without kind of setting that expectation for ourselves and say we are going to do events with people that aren't normally data people. Um, and that was primarily kind of driven from the fellowship. I think what did meet my expectations, like in retrospect, was that the level of the community was really high, and it was actually quite motivating to kind of hear about what other people were doing across the world and say, okay, like if they can manage it, then I think we can do it. If not in this time frame, then in a longer time frame later. Um, so I think that actually added a lot um, to a sense of it. Was that just my own personal learnings that things are happening everywhere, and it's quite nice to be a part of that sort of movement.
Cool. Thanks, Nisha. We've got two questions on Skype. So from Esra, I'd like to ask, what are the top 3 things that the fellowship taught you? Olu, I saw you dropped out and then you came back in again, so maybe it's working for you now? Or maybe not. Okay, Nisha, what are the top 3 things that the fellowship taught you?
Okay. I think one is that I've become better at checking in since it was a requirement in the fellowship, and usually I kind of it's not part of my working schedule. Um, so it was like much better at being like, we have to check in on Tuesday. This is a good vehicle. There's lots of like ways to sort of share what you're doing, which was actually um, quite a nice thing to learn. I think the second thing was I got much better at organizing events. I think um, from start to finish, just because the 6-month timeline actually allowed you to get events done, while normally we'll kind of say we'll do 2 in a year or 3 in a year. It was like, okay, we'll do 3 in 6 months, which was quite a rush for us. So that actually just makes perfect in terms of just getting logistics down and understanding what you need. And 3, I think technically, in terms of facilitating and understanding certain things better, I definitely have become better at, explaining statistics, explaining certain kind of, technical ideas like what's an API and what's scraping, just because I would be running these and people would have questions and, I would have to answer them. So that was actually pretty good learning for me as well. So those are my top 3.
Thanks, Nisha. They're great. So nice to hear that you learned things and it was helpful and stuff. Okay, Olu, I think your connection's better.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, one, one will be
Oh, I can't hear you very well. I think we might be having some internet issues, unfortunately. Olu, if you can write in the chat your top 3 things, that would be really great, and then we can read them out. I'm so sorry not to be able to hear from you. I'm sure you'll have some great things to share with us. So one other question from Esra on Twitter. If you would redo this fellowship, what would you do differently to gain more value from it? Nisha?
Um, I think if I had to redo the fellowship, I would concentrate more, I think, on evaluation and feedback. I think that's the part where we sort of didn't have enough time to allow to mature um, to a good point where it became more useful at the end. I think the last event, and it would be something that I would have liked to spend a little more time understanding what people got out of these events, how they were going to use it in their lives, and how we can then, keep building on that in some capacity. Like, what does follow up look like, and how does that keep going? Even if it's just with a few people, if they're integrating these skills into their day to day, then that's, for me, is like a huge value add that we were able to accomplish. And we don't have a good sense of that. So I think if I had to start it over again, that would be the first thing that I thought about, and then kind of build the events around it.
Cool, thanks, Nisha. So we've got two things to say. Firstly, Adolfo has joined us. I don't know if he's in an office or somewhere that he can speak, but if you can, it'd be great to hear from you. Adolfo is joining us from Spain. He's with our Spanish. So we have so School of Data has local instances in various countries, including Escuela de Datos in Mexico and Escuela de Datos in Spain, in France, in Greece, in Italy, in Brazil. I don't know which other ones I've forgotten. There's so many, it's hard to keep up with. And we also have Olu's 3 lessons. So we have he has great facilitation skills, learning from other cultures and communities through the 6 months, and also learning that you can make your participants teach as well. I think the learning that you can make your participants teach as well is a really key one that I've learned personally a lot as well. There are so many things that I never thought that I would be able to, that I just learned, and I never thought I'd be able to teach for a really long time. But actually, it's surprisingly quick when you can kind of bring someone to share that among other people as well. All right, Adolfo, do you have anything to add? Okay. Adolfo's coming back ASAP. Milena, I don't know if there's anything else to add on top of that. We've explained briefly about what the fellowship includes. Milena, do you have anything else to add on this?
It's worth going a little bit through the type of people we're looking for. So what are the skills that we're looking for in fellows, and what are the criteria that we will use to evaluate the applications? So I think it's worth saying that we're looking for people that either have some technical skills or are really willing to learn them. Obviously, we're looking for people that are willing to become data trainers, to share the skills eventually with the larger community and with other organizations, and empower civil society organizations or journalists in their communities, in their countries, to use data more effectively. So that's the whole framing of the fellowship program. We're looking for people who either have the skills or want to learn how to do that, and really are keen to empower what we call change makers to do their work more effectively through using data. We're looking for people who have some experience in sharing their skills with others, either through past trainings or through passion or informal ways of sharing their skills with others. We're looking for people who can speak good English and can really participate in the program together with their peers. I think that's it. Apply if you're interested in this. Apply if you think you have some skills to share, but if you also have some skills to learn, and be part of this amazing community of fellows in 2015.
Yeah, thanks, Milena. That's a really good summary. So we'll be kicking off as we did last year. We started the fellowship off with a summer camp. Last year we brought everyone to Berlin in Germany, and you can watch a really great video from the summer camp that maybe gives you an idea of the kind of things we've got up to. So the fellowship will be starting in April of 2015 this year, and then we're planning to have a summer camp in May. The location is yet to be decided. And then it'll be running for 9 months, as we mentioned already, so a little bit longer than last year. That's something that, again, we learned from we're adapting upon feedback from last year. So last year was actually our first kind of full-blown fellowship program. In 2013, we did a kind of small pilot scheme. And then, last year was our first proper one. So as Milena said, we as the coordinating team had lots of things to learn, and we learned a lot, and hopefully we're trying to kind of adapt based on that feedback a little bit. So we're hoping to introduce a few new aspects this year, and also because we have this really great network of fellows from 2014, to really keep them involved and help them, provide a structure where they can help support the new fellows to learn as much as they can and to build the communities as much as they can in their areas. So yeah, I guess, the last thing to say would be, please do apply, or if you're unsure if you're suitable, then drop us an email on info@schoolofdata.org. You can always tweet us at School of Data. We look forward to having your applications. And thanks all for joining us. Thank you so much, Nisha. Olu, I'm so sorry that the internet didn't work for you. Adolfo, maybe we'll catch you another time. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.